What's good, everyone? You're listening to WKNC 88.1 FM HD1 Raleigh. We are a student-run nonprofit radio station based out of North Carolina State University. I'm Ewan, aka DJ Off Belay, and this is the alt-rap pipeline Deep Cuts, where we're interviewing some of the up-and-coming talent out of the alt-rap underground. Today, I'm here with Ernesto Birmingham. What's good, man? How's it going?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. We can jump right into it, I guess.
Yeah, so maybe for some people that are listening that haven't really heard you before, why don't you give yourself like a little intro, what kind of music you make, how long you've been making music, stuff like that.
I would describe the music I make as alternative hip hop, kind of akin to, where Tyler the Creator sits in, the mainstream sector, and then also I was very influenced by the whole Odd Future group growing up, and also Chicago's whole Save Money group. So I think you can hear those influences in my music, and my contemporaries are also influences. So like if you know Young Wabo and Jonah Love, those are two of my corroborators with with my music. And then acts like Gal the Arsonist and all these really cool underground people who are just like waiting to bubble up. I feel like I'm really taken from.
Yeah, no, definitely you sit well within that sound that you sort of described. I feel like nowadays music doesn't really have sort of an emphasis on location. It's more about like the certain sound you're trying to emulate. I feel like
Right.
You brought up a lot of the people that play on my show and stuff like that. So those influences you'd say definitely are sort of like intentional in terms of like your contemporaries, or is it more just like you like making this kind of music and it's sort of just works out that there's already sort of a sound there?
I mean, it's both, because I think what we all like to do is essentially just take bits and pieces of stuff that we're not really supposed to, and then kind of like distort it into something that's really like way cooler than you'd hear on, I think, traditional like top 100. Not to be pretentious about the underground, because it's just like there's good music and bad music just like in mainstream, but like that's so I would describe it as I am intentionally kind of putting my style in that camp, but then also that just arises naturally. Like that is how I understand being a creative, like through this sense of like distorting the cool aspects that we hear in music before, and then turning into something else. If that makes sense, it's kind of word salad.
Yeah, no, I like how you said taking stuff that you're not necessarily supposed to be. I mean, kind of hinting at like sampling, obviously, like straight up not supposed to be, but also just like taking from other genres.
Well, 100%.
Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, like I guess the latest example of that would be for my latest single was "Everything Is for Free," and that was just like I was listening to this one song called Nancy Drew by Slutface. I think that's how it's pronounced. And it was just like so heavy on the guitar and like the bass and stuff. Like I was just like, I want to put that in a rap song. And it's not like it hasn't been done before, but like it was just like that type of energy. Just I wanted to express myself over that type of energy. So
yeah, would you say that's like kind of typical with how you make your songs? It's like you find a sample, you're like, oh, this has inspired me all of a sudden. Or there's some times where it's like, oh, I want to make a song about this, let me find the sample. Or maybe like just you have a title and first you're like, I want to make a song called this.
I'm not even gonna lie, like sometimes the title comes first.
Yeah.
Because like it's that is such an important part of the process. But the truth is, I think when you get to a certain point in it, at least for me, it's not like trying to find a creative process. It's like processing creatively, like what you're doing. Like I process music creatively. Like I think about like a song that I listen to. Like I've been listening to every day the past 2 weeks. I was like, why I keep listening to the song, and I investigate it and I try to find exactly what I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, I I realized, okay, this is something I can take for myself, for my next song, and that's how it becomes like it's like a translation process almost. You
Right.
know, I
Yeah, I
see
get what you're saying.
something in the world, and I use music to tell other people about it.
Wow, that's. I feel like I've never really heard it described that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Like, not necessarily has to be an active process of being creative. You can be doing it sort of like in the background where you're listening to other music, or in like just like throughout the day. It's like
Yeah.
it's never off.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like with that, I sort of wanted to talk about So Refreshing, your freshman album. When you like went about releasing that, was there sort of a driving, I don't know how to say it, like what was the goal of the album? Did you want to like have it be like a concept album? Did you want to
So that's it's almost a long story. I remember I always wanted an album name or a project called So Refreshing.
mm-hmm.
And at first I didn't know why. Over quarantine, because like it started like in 2019, but in like that I just had that idea, So Refreshing. It was before I even really finished songs. Like I produce all my work, and I write my own lyrics and all that stuff, but I didn't really make songs. I didn't record and finish songs for a while, but I always had this idea I was going to make an album, and it was either going to be called Catalyst, which is part of the name of my next upcoming project, At a Catalyst,
mm-hmm.
or So Refreshing. I started making songs, like actually making songs during quarantine, and I kind of came to this realization that I wasn't good at it. So what I started to develop is like, oh, the reason I want I like the name So Refreshing is because you get in interviews with these up and coming artists, and you hear somebody say, oh, this record is just so refreshing to hear a young artist do this, or a black artist do that, or a queer artist to do this. And I was like, I want that, I want
mm-hmm.
that for myself. And I kept making music with this in the back of my head. But I eventually got to a point where I was like, this is still not sounding like the stuff that I listen to. This still is not sounding like anything that like I think should fit in that mode. And I kept making music, but I kind of changed my attitude to it. So for most of those songs, I was creating them with no intention of releasing them, no intention of them going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like, the things that I made right before I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do something else with my life.
Yeah.
But it was at that point that I realized that that's what actually it means to be refreshing, like so refreshing. Like I had this moment where it's like, I was creating just to create. I wasn't creating to get the accolade. I wasn't creating
mm-hmm.
to get the compliment. I was just creating just to make. And that's the common thread between these artists who are called refreshing. Like I figured it out almost. And that's how I got the name.
Definitely. I feel like sounds like you really wanted to like defy expectations and like you said, be refreshing. I like how you also said a lot of people in this sound sort of came to the same like realization that you just need to create. I feel like the space that you're in is full of like a lot of genuine artists, not necessarily playing characters. They're just creating to create and being genuine.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. Like I started like looking at the music industry before I was ever like anywhere close to it. I'm still not really in it right now, but like, you know, we all watch like Disney Channel. It's like, oh, like a jerk producer is like trying to scam Hannah Montana or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. We all have that image in our head, and I was just like, you know, this isn't my world, but you know, getting to meet all these cool people, it's like these are class acts, you know. Like I have people who I'm talking to now who like the way it was described to me, like I was like, no, everybody's Hollywood, everybody wants to big time you to like prove their position, like to prove that they're the big fish in the small pond.
Yeah.
But I'm so genuinely grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's like no sense of hostility in the scene. It's a lot of collaboration and just like working at it together. Sort of back towards refreshing, you saying that like the title was sort of honestly like a big driving factor. Like how do you think you did like reaching your own expectations with the album of like it being so refreshing?
I don't know. I feel like it definitely has the impact that it's supposed to have, I think, on listeners, because I wasn't making it for listeners, you know. I wasn't like I got to a point where I was just like, I'm making this because like I'm just seeing what I can do, like I'm playing and I'm creating because like it is making me happy to create. That being said, like I've gotten so much good feedback on the record. Like people say like I've had people say, yeah, So Refreshing is my album of the year. And I was like, that's crazy. So Refreshing isn't my album of the year. but like that is like, I mean, that's always been something that I've wanted. Like I had somebody say that it was in their top 50 albums of, like, I was like, that is insane to me. But it's all about like I was just doing whatever I wanted because, you know, like I'm not gonna, even if it didn't reach anybody, like I could have had like, oh, the solace of like, oh, I didn't try, so I couldn't fail. But then there's also the other thing is like I didn't create, so I didn't get anything out of creation. It's just like it's the most refreshing cyclical thing, you know, like where it's like you don't need anything else. Was like you create to create. Like why did you create? Because I could.
Yeah, and when you're genuine about your creation, it's like super easy to be proud of what you're making as opposed to like worrying that it's gonna come to light or something like that. You sort of touched on it, talking about how it's like really nice to hear when people say like, oh, this album of the year, like, oh, this is in my top 50. How else do you sort of like measure your success as an underground independent artist? Like how do you manage expectations in that way?
I really have appreciated how people tell me is like I joke about how like I hate this, but it does mean a lot to me. Like my friends will play my album in their car or at parties or like to their parents.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't play Ernesto at the function. Do not show Ernesto Birmingham to your parents. But you know, it means a lot. And like not just my friends, but the people who listen to my music, and they'll say I made everybody listen to your song. And it's not even because like, oh, I think this is gonna make me grow, but it's because like there's something that's sitting with them. There's something that's
you're making an impact.
I'm making exactly. And that's really, it's just a great feeling because that's deeper than, you know, success. That's like a network that you're tapping into. That's a wave you're making.
Yeah, as opposed to it just being like trying to derive your happiness off like streams and numbers. It's like very intangible. But when you have people like playing your songs to their friends and stuff, that's very like real.
Right.
You said you did all the production on or all your own production, so you did all the production on So Refreshing.
I did. Yep.
That's love to hear that. I feel like you had a really really clean transitions between the songs, especially like Shilly to Pollock. Just, oh,
Oh yeah, people talk about that one. I remember when I figured out like I could do it, it was just like because the other story about so do you want to like can I get it? I'm gonna try to like compress it a little bit, but there's like more to the album than like meets the eye.
I mean,
Um,
I feel like you just go for it.
all right, cool. So the story there's a story behind the album.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's about this kid named Buck who has his song blow up on SoundCloud, um, and subsequently a bunch of terrible things start happening to him, but he's so busy like celebrating the success from like just all these listens on SoundCloud that by the end when he's going off to New York to like meet somebody or trying to make that SoundCloud hit into something,
Mm-hmm.
he meets this tragic fate by getting hit by a train, and like it's weird.
No,
And I came up with the story. I came up with the story after I finished the songs, but it just made me more confident about releasing the project for some reason. My favorite project of all time is Because the Internet by Childish Gambino.
yes,
So like
100%
it's
agree.
like it just and then also all of Tyler's projects were the first albums that I really sat down and listened to because I was a kid with such ADHD, tiny like 2 second attention span. I never was gonna listen to an album, but the story really gets you into it. And I don't really talk about that part of the album that much, but like it really I think about it and I don't even know what the moral of the story is. It's just like it's supposed to be like a tragedy, but it allows me to look at a lot of the lyrics that I think I forget the meaning of and allows me to find meaning in them
Mm.
because that's just because if you take it down to its essential parts, this idea of like reaching success, like the climax of your life, dipping down into like an immediate stop is kind of like just a compressed version of life. So
Yeah.
in a weird way, like I'm just glad that it's up for myself because sometimes when I'm going through something and I listen to some of like the really wonky lyrics, it has like its own meaning to me. I'm a really like weirdly like almost schizoaffective person. So
Uh-huh.
like I'll find different meanings in the weird lyrics that I have on there. So
Yeah, I think you especially all this album especially too. It's very dense. Like there's not really a point where you're not saying something. I feel like every time I hear your music and go back and listen, it's just like, how did I not hear this bar? What? It's like very like high replayability. I feel like I get something new out of it every time I listen to it. And now that you've told me this story, I'm definitely gonna be listening back and be like, oh, I see.
yeah, I mean, and that's what Shilly is about too because Shilly I made with the I think that was actually one of the only songs that I made with like a very clear intention of what I wanted it to be because the idea behind it is like I'm speaking from the perspective of like a 19-year-old who's convinced they are like secretly like 80 something years old, like they're just living the same because they're living the same day over and over.
Yeah.
They feel like an old man. They're at a party, um they're like a grumpy old man just in a young person's body, which sounds like it's like a new chance at life, but it's really like, oh, I have to do this so much more. Like I have to be next year I'll be 100, and then
Mm.
and the year after that I'll be like 200.
Yeah.
It's and so like you take out so by the end you're supposed to when the beat changes up a little bit, that's like that's like the character Buck beating up somebody at the party that he's at.
Yeah,
and that's how it ends. It was
like you just saying that, it's like clicking with a few of the bars, like the Vietnam bar. It's
yeah.
like makes sense now.
Yeah,
He's like an 80-year-old dude.
Yeah, but it's
And then the Weezer like reference is just like jumping all over the place.
I say Gladys play some Weezer.
Okay.
Like that's like I say Gladys is my wife or my girlfriend or something. Kid 19 feeling 8-9. Not a heartbreak, no 808 cosign. Sorry, Tank. That's one of my favorite lines that I've written. Like in 1989, I no 808 cosign, 808 and heartbreaks.
Yeah.
Kanye. So it's like I'm referencing the Kanye Taylor beef in that.
Oh,
in that
okay. That went over my head until you just said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said you started making songs in the pandemic. Was that sort of like from scratch? Because, I mean, your production is so clean now. Is that all just like 2 years of locking in? Or did you have any sort of like music background before that?
So I had been producing since my freshman year of high school. And I've been rapping since like I was like in 7th grade.
Okay.
But like when I say this, I was terrified to record, because I remember like how my brain works is like I'm in a process of unlearning perfectionism always. But I remember I would put my vocals with like using my Mac laptop, and I would get like frustrated on on a level that you would not imagine. Like it was almost like I would have a breakdown because I just didn't understand anything like about how to record or how to mix or anything. And instead of learning about it, I would just write, and I would just imagine, okay, one day the song will be done, one day the album will be done, and I will, and a lot of people like it. I was just so much in my head about it. And I realized, okay, if I can't record a good song, then, just get it done with to, release so you can stop thinking about it. But like, you can't be in your head about this. That's what I told myself by quarantine.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like I relate to that sometimes. If I'm like trying to do something and it's not exactly how I want it the first time, I'm like, oh, it's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
Why try? But then I feel like it's got to be so satisfying once you like get those skills and get the ability to actually like take what's in your head and make it into music.
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of your songs are pretty long in terms of like nowadays all the rap that surrounded with, especially in this scene, is like super short. Is that intentional? Do you feel like, is that intentional, trying to get away from a trend, or is it just?
I think it wasn't intentional, but if you listen to So Refreshing, like you'll know that I do have an affinity for bridges. Like I really love like putting on like a little extra part at the end, and I like to make the verses. You gotta understand, I'm getting off like 6 years of raps that I've just been sitting in my head.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, my initial idea when I made, because the album was made over like 3 distinct periods. One was like a year ago where I was just coming into college, and I was finishing like 3 songs. That was Get Along, Pop Off, and one other, I forget. Then over my winter break, that was in January, I did in this order, Blue, Pan Flutes, Evening Star Beat, Box, and I all in 4 days in a row. That's how it went. And then Finding Something, I think, was right after that. And then I got back to campus in March, and I did the other songs on it, on just like in a mad rush where I was just isolating for that entire period. But God, I almost forget what was the question.
Are you trying to like intentionally
Like
go against like the trend? Yeah.
So no, but the way that I was creating, I was like kind of painting on the walls in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I was just trying to like get everything out of like this whatever song I was on, you know, like I was trying to get everything. I was trying to pull everything out of it. I was trying to like see, what can I do with this? What can I like? I was really kind of overcomplicating it in a unnecessary way, but like that was just so exciting for me because it was the first time I was making music that I actually liked listening to. So that was that. I think that probably had something to do with it.
Yeah, it honestly sounds like it was the opposite. Like a lot of the work was like cutting down everything you're putting down. If you're just making so much, like holding back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like, there's a lot of contradictions in like everything I make. Like, I don't even know where I was going with that. See,
so how do you feel that like social media and stuff impacts how you make music or how you like go about creating or like sharing your stuff? Do you think it's like overall good, overall bad?
Social media is great for me. I hate social media personally, like just because, you know, you're supposed to be like serious on there.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's how am I supposed to take it serious? But the reason you're supposed to take it serious is because that's how people interact now. You know, that's just like the mode of communication. But on terms of promotion, on the terms of like getting your music out there, it's like, you know, a dream. Like, I'm sure so many artists would have loved to have that. We might have an entire different repertoire of artists if, you know, we had the same type of social media in the 90s.
That's very true,
versus now. But also, I mean, you know, because I can connect with so many different people. That's how I still connect with the circle that I had before I was promoting on TikTok, because, and I gotta shout them out right now. That's my boys at Camp Surf. That's Trevor Cook, Summer Roman, Noah Hyun, and James Cochran. Like, because we met at a summer camp, and we haven't seen each other since then, but we connect through social media, and we would, you know, collaborate through the internet. So I mean, it's a completely invaluable tool for music, both production and sampling and everything that it has to do with. It's great.
That's definitely true. I like the point that you said that we might even have like an entirely different like set of artists back in the 90s if it was different.
Oh yeah.
Because I feel like back then it was so reliant on like labels and being tapped into like the industry, but nowadays you just have people recording on their phones, making whole songs and just pushing it out with no middleman.
Exactly. I mean, like, who, like, right now somebody can post a reel from like their house in Wyoming, and, you know, in a month they'll be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in the 90s, you had to live in either, you know, LA or New York, or be able to get out there and then do some stuff to some guy with power, which I won't say what it is, but like, like, you know, it's like, it's
now you just got to make 7 TikToks a day. I mean, like,
Exactly. Post like one reel, 7 story posts and 7 TikToks, and you're good.
Okay, write that down. I gotta write this down.
Response. Yeah, write it down. Write it down. Write it down.
What was sort of like the difference between how you approached So Refreshing versus how you approached your EP, Nevada Robinson?
Nevada Robinson was just like, I was just doing like, I was kind of doing whatever in the same way initially, but then I was also finishing the projects with like a little less like intensity, you know. I just feel like it was just like I wasn't really like, because, you know, on So Refreshing I go into like kind of some weird, deep, dark topics a little bit, like even if you don't know what I'm talking about at first, like it's still kind of like, I feel like the mood is a bit different. I remember, no, I was making Nevada Robinson riding off the high of Shilly, like getting a lot of listens and stuff and playlist streams and all that. And I was just like, I'm gonna make some music that like that's kind of happier, and even well, God, I forget what it's called. I forget the name of my own song, but like the one with the guitar strums and I say No Regard. Is that what it's called? I'm
just thinking, if you said guitar, I'm only thinking of Pollock.
It's No Regard off Nevada Robinson. Those were lyrics that I'd want to use since 2019. So
No Regards. I'm not seeing it on Nevada Robinson.
Don't got no regard. Oh, In the Dark. In the Dark.
Okay.
Cause like I changed the name of a song like several times throughout. Yeah, so it's In the Dark. Why did I name it
2019.
Right. 2019.
Is it from 2019?
Yeah, that's when I wrote all the lyrics.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it was my junior year of high school when I was writing. It was like, I'm talking about like a real experience that I had when I was dating. I was dating a girl, and so I'm talking about the arcade. I'm talking about like my grades slipping and all that stuff. So, but it was like, it was kind of like symbolic. It was like, okay, now I'm finally in the place where I'm getting this stuff off of my chest. I'm being able to express myself in this way, and people can hear it, because people would hear me rap in the hallway, sometimes freestyling with my friends, and people would hear my beats, and then I would never release a song. But it was just something. It was something for myself. Like a lot of this stuff are like just Easter eggs for myself, symbolism for myself and my own progression. So I think that's what Nevada Robinson was about.
And you said earlier that you have sort of like something coming out soon. Is that going to be more like Nevada Robinson, where it's like an EP, kind of just less serious, or is it going to be like album type stuff?
It's it's 5 tracks.
Okay.
So it is an EP, but I kind of took this one a little bit more serious than Nevada Robinson. I think the music is better. Like everybody, I know every artist is like, this is my best stuff, but like I think this is like, I tried to mix the vocals better. I remember, so the reason I made this project was because I just got, Shilly had been put on a lot of people's Discover Weeklies one day, and I just got like 5,000, 6,000 streams in a day, which hadn't happened since like, that didn't even happen when the TikTok first blew up. But I was like, oh my God, this is momentum. I'm gonna like try to release something, so to, you know, do so this, you know, we'll do something.
Yeah, just to like add for people checking out your like page, coming to it from Shilly, just to see more like, oh, new release. Makes sense.
Yeah. Ironically though, it's not like Shilly at all. Like it's more sample heavy. It's more 90s, 90 BPM, kind of. If you listen to, I keep saying if you listen to So Refreshing, a lot of the BPM is around 120. So it's like, wait, no, I'm gonna make sure I get this right. Like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, not I'm finding something we never knew. Oh, it's clear the world ain't getting bigger, or even never admit I'm on one, but I gotta work on my zone. Like I really like 120 BPM, and I don't really do that as much on this. I do it a couple times, but I'm really trying to experiment with a different flow, and that's because I heard some of the playlists that I was on. That was like an exercise I was doing. So I was like, okay, so what are they listening for? You know, like I'm gonna keep doing me, obviously, but like I'm trying to see like the people who like me. What are they? What is the common thread between me and the other people? Why is Shilly on this playlist, but Unwise isn't? Why is Flip a Penny on this playlist, but you know Pollock isn't?
That's really
and
smart.
Thank you. And I was like, and so I'm thinking, so I realize I'm one of the only people who's not like, who only has like a couple songs that are sample based by that point.
Mm-hmm.
Most of like on So Refreshing, you only have Finding Something and Blue that are like clearly, you know, samples.
Yeah.
And I guess Pollock too, but that's like a sample. That's my friend playing.
Yeah, it's like a loop almost. The like guitar.
Yeah, it's just. But I realized, okay, so this is kind of like a world that I want to step for, because I love sampling, but I didn't do it that much.
Yeah.
So that's what to expect. I was previewing Brother What's Up, which is gonna be the single. It's coming out on the 21st. It's in like a week.
That'll probably be out by the time this airs.
Oh, great. So you can check it out at my Spotify, Ernesto Birmingham. If you don't know how to spell Birmingham, learn it. Like, come on.
Like, yeah, wait, quickly before I forget, how did you get the name Ernesto Birmingham? Like, where did that come from?
Oh, I love this question because I don't know. I don't even know. I changed my, and I should know because I know throughout the past few years I've had so many different aliases.
Yeah.
Like the first alias that I ever had that was related to rapping was Zero G's, because I saw it in a Vsauce video once. I was like in 8th grade, and I was like, and Michael Stevens, it's like, hey, Vsauce. And he's talking about, he's like, 0 G's, and like your face does all that weird stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'm 0 G's. Then it was, for a while, it was Amos Othello. For a long time, it was Eric Fauna. And I just was like, you know what? I don't like this name. Now I'm Ernesto Birmingham, which is the worst of all of them by far. Like,
yeah, I feel like when I try to put people onto you, I'm like, you guys should check out Ernesto Birmingham. They're like, what kind of music is that? I'm like,
It's just like I decided to stick with it because like I kept having this problem where it was like, oh, I have this really cool name, but like, oh, I just thought of this other cool name. This sounds way cooler than the last one. And Ernesto Birmingham, I'll never have that problem because it's not cool. It's just kind of weird. Like, it has to become cool, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good, like, I remember things like, okay, everybody has a problem spelling Birmingham. But once they learn it, that's like, oh, you know how to spell Birmingham because you listen to Ernesto Birmingham. Like,
yeah, I feel like all those names you rattled off are very like iconic sounding, you know. Even just like Nevada Robinson. Like,
I'm good at making names.
no, you
It just
definitely.
does not show in that one. Every group that I've been in, I have given that I've done the name.
What
Like
was the
I'm in a
fauna one you said?
Eric Fauna,
Okay.
which was dope.
Sorry, not to cut you off. Yeah, you said you were in a group.
I was
Or
in a group, Camp Surf. We don't really make music as much now, but we met at Berkeley. They were also big influences for me because, you get in the first time you like enter a new creative space and you hear everything like the people who are like right next to you are making is like
mm-hmm.
such a like mind's F word. Caught myself. Um, because you're like, okay, it's actually not an excuse that I'm just sitting in my college dorm and, that artist is, in somewhere in Hollywood because this person is doing something better than I've heard, like anything that on my playlist,
Yeah.
and they're in the exact same position as me, maybe even worse. Maybe they have like less like options than I do,
Yeah.
which was the case sometimes. But I was with Cam Surf and this other group of people back in Philadelphia, where I'm from, where we called ourselves Noble Infamy and Kansai Grotto for a while. That didn't really catch on, but I made both of those names.
Both 10 out of 10 names again.
Thank
Noble
you.
infamy. Wow.
Yeah, none of y'all listening better take that because we don't have a copyright. Don't take that. But yeah.
Yeah. Um. Are you like? Do you have any sort of like? How do I want to say this? What's like the roadmap you have like the next few months, next year? Like, where do you want to be, or like, what are you building towards?
I try to do everything in this area like without expectations
Mm-hmm.
because it's just so flux. It's so fickle. I know even where I've been at this point, like, you'll have people who you think you're gonna meet up with, or you think they're gonna like give you a verse and they don't, like, they ghost you, or like there's like everything is like left in the hands. The foundation is left in the hands of creatives, which is like not good if you've ever worked with creative people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but I, I'll say I think the right people have been listening. Um I'm getting attention from people in places that I want to be. So all I know is that, regardless, I'm going to be investigating the opportunities and seeing where they lead me. My goal always is for stability. I'm not about like having like a hit song at all,
Mm-hmm.
but having a connection that allows me to like tap into a dedicated fan base, or having like something pop off that like makes people interested, or getting into a space where I can actually make money that where it's not contingent on me making another Shilly.
Yeah.
Those are my goals, because I'm not really looking to get to the top. Like, I know rappers aren't supposed to say, I'm not looking to be the GOAT. You might hear me say that in the song later, but like I'm not. It's just seeing the leads and draining them of everything possible at this point, and I think I'll have a lot of chances to do that in the next coming months because I've been talking to people. So
Nice. Um, where are you based right now?
I'm in Massachusetts. I'm in college
Yeah.
at Amherst College. So
Do you have any sort of like um leads for like live shows or anything like that, live performances?
um Yes, because I mean, there's a place where a friend of mine organizes um, live shows like right in town, but then also I've been getting offers from people on Instagram like saying like come to New York, come here, and we'll pay you to do a show or like some stuff like that. And I
Mm-hmm.
have like a person kind of acting as my manager who's like really tapped in uh, everywhere he goes talking to people. So
Nice.
I definitely have things lined up. I'm just like still in Massachusetts, so it's like it's just more difficult, and it would be cool to like have at least a few more people know my name before I'm really diving into that. Although that is the way you get people to learn your name. So, but
Yeah, it makes sense. You
it's
kind of
definitely
want to.
coming.
Yeah, it makes sense. Sort of back to what you were saying before. Like you want to have like a dedicated fan base that you can tap into with new stuff. I feel like a lot of that could come from like where you're based, like local listener. Like you said, Massachusetts. I'm not sure how far Amherst is from Boston, but I know like there's big live show scene in Boston, stuff like that. I mean, New
Yeah,
York's not terribly far. It's like consistent shows there would be nice.
I can get there. I can get there.
Yeah. I mean, you got North Carolina's pretty far, but if you're trying to pull up, we can put you on the lounge.
Hey, I will definitely go to North Carolina. I have some friends there, you know. That'll where you guys like near Durham?
Yeah, we're in Raleigh, so we're in the Triangle. It's like 35 minutes from Durham.
Oh yeah, Raleigh. Okay, cool. Cool. That's that's sick. I've heard a lot of good things about that part of North Carolina. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Yeah, no, the Triangle is like it works out well for us at the radio station because like the Triangle is just like three big college towns all pressed together, and Raleigh, which is like the capital, and our radio station reaches all the little cities. So we're like got a little boost in viewership just because we got a big what's it called, big frequency range, a big tower. I don't know. I love live shows. I feel like there's just an energy you can't get from even just like watching live recordings. You just can't get the same energy as being in person listening to the music.
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like you saying with like stability, that's got to be one of the more consistent ways artists nowadays can make money off of their art.
Yeah, and that whatever that looks like. I mean, being able to like have positions in the industry, like being able to like do consultation for production. That's why I'm so like vehement about doing my own production. So like whatever people listen to, they're like, oh, he also produced this. Like he also knows. Like I'm really trying to make sure that my feet are steady in that world because I know that's I think the most stable jobs come from that area. I don't want to have to ride off of like my personal image being popular,
Mm-hmm.
but
And
I
that
always tell
definitely
people I want
plays.
to do like
Sorry, go
want to
ahead.
do like I was just I mean I always tell people like the end goal like when I'm old or something I want to do like film scoring, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because it's just whatever it works and is like I can get I can make a salary off of. I guess that's not even really a salary job, but like you know what
I
I
get what you
mean,
mean. Yeah. That
like a
actually
job.
reminds me of something. I feel like I saw in your story recently. Someone was asking about like the film version of your album. Just wondering what that was.
Oh yeah, so like I said, So Refreshing has a story, and I wrote a script for it. And it's the way I wrote the script. It's almost like I was really taking like a entire not more than a page, more like a whole chapter out of because the internet with it. Like it's like, but I was just inspired by this idea of like an album having like a visual component to it, and I was thinking, what if I could actually make the movie that because the internet didn't really get to become in
Mm-hmm.
full. And so it was gonna stay a script originally, but I have this friend who actually really made a movie. Like, went to France. They it was actually two friends. They made a movie and they went to France and they filmed an entire movie. They just did it. Like, I mean, they got.
Yeah.
I think they got some what's it called? They just got some money from our college, but I was just like, okay, so again, I just have to keep learning. I can just, even if I think it's gonna be hard, like, I can just do it, like, no matter how stupid the first attempt is, like, just do it. It's a good
definitely.
idea.
Yeah. And yeah, there's just so many ways that you can express yourself, be creative, especially like not even just music, like surrounding music, like because the internet was a great example. I feel like a lot of people realized with that it's like so much more that can go into an album than just the music.
Right.
Sort of reaching the end of my prepared questions here. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I'm that's like, I think probably most of what I want to say. I want to give a big shout out. Like, I know I'm not, this isn't me soliciting obviously other people, like, but I kind of want to give a shout out to the people who other artists who, like, should also be interviewed in the future, who will be interviewed in the future, not necessarily by y'all, I mean, obviously y'all, but like we'll get there one day. It was like, I just wanted to shout out Saride and Ren Cinema and Miles Ramon and Eli Froze, all my friends in Philly, and everybody else who I mentioned in this interview. That's it. And if you want to follow me, you can at Free Diallo. That's Free Diallo. I'm allowed to say that, right? Like, if I
You said that perfectly.
if you want, right?
Yeah,
all right, great, thank you.
And then Ernesto Birmingham on all streaming services. That's ERNESTO BIRMINGHAM.
Just look up Shilly, and the person who made it is me, Shilly.
I'm him.
I am him. I am the guy with the white eyes and the, like, half the face cut off. Yeah.
Thanks again, guys, for listening to this episode of the Alt Rap Pipeline Deep Cuts. I was here with Ernesto Birmingham. If you like any of these songs we talked about today, any sort of stuff with him, I have a show on 88.1 FM Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, thank